I hope a 4-letter word doesn't ruin your day. And if it does, learn to get past that, because if the sound of a word, which is just the sound, if it affects you in that much, in that way, then you are not living in your own, right? You're not your own person. You're living through the external output of anybody else. So in other words, if my neighbor said, Filipinos are fobs, then that's just gonna ruin my life. Like, oh no, don't say that shit, bruh. I give a fuck what you say.
Connected to Sales Remastered.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sales Remastered. My name is Daniel. I'm your host, and you're back on another episode of Breakfast of Champions, where I spit out content every morning on my way home from the gym. Content that's really going to make your wheels turn. It's really going to be thought-provoking. It's going to give you some insight on the daily grind and sometimes situations that we all go through, including myself. That's actually the reason why I even make it a topic, is because I went through it and I know it's common. And for example, in this episode, we're actually going to talk about pattern recognition. I know you might be like, "D, the hell, bro, you're getting way off on topic when you talk about this shit on Breakfast of Champions." Oh, by the way, there will be profanity in these videos. So if you're bougie or you're fancy, I get it. I completely respect it, and that's why I went the extra step to separate the two. And I'm still looking for your feedback. I'm getting a lot of comments saying, "Yo, D, your shit's real," and I appreciate you. I'm not getting so many comments anymore like too many curse words. And I recognize that pattern, so therefore I pivoted, adapted, and adjusted, because I don't want to turn away the attention. I really genuinely feel that each one can teach one, and if we learn how to share through our own experiences, whether there were 100 people who watched this video and I only help one, that's enough for me, because that one person is going to change their view and thus change the view of those around them. So I may be only affecting one person, but soon enough that one person will affect their circle and hopefully bring that entire circle to the next level. So on with the show. About pattern recognition, the reason why I even brought this up was actually because of a video game. I know, it's crazy, right? Old ass dude talking about video games and shit. Well, anyway, this past weekend, I dusted off the PS4 and picked up a game with my son. And I actually picked it up for myself. I just blamed my son, so I feel better and shit. But we picked up this one game called, I think it's called God of War. Yeah, God of War for PS4. And, it's been a minute since I played a video game, and I could literally only put in now 10-15 minutes, and then I give up, and I'll just watch my son play. Yes, I've gotten to that age. And you might still be in the age, though, where you're playing video games. You may not. You might be like, "D, I don't fucking like video games. I'm not liking this episode, and I invite you just to go and watch the next one then, boo-boo." But in this episode, we're going to talk about fucking video games. Anyway, about video games, if you could think back to any old game that you know, and I was thinking about this while playing the game with my son this past weekend. And, we're playing, and games are just on another level. Number one is there's like 19 different controls and 83 different combos if you add the buttons together. And so I don't know how you memorize that. I remember before, all we had to do was memorize up, up, down, down, left, right, right. That was our code, and we had 99 men and shit. And nowadays it's on some wow, like insane. I wouldn't be able to leave my room if I was a kid with today's video games. Shit. So anyway, we're playing this game, and we get to one of the very first bosses, right? And I noticed that, there's only certain ways to beat it. And this is why I believe multi-playing games, or playing online with other people, live people, not computers or AIs, is more attractive, because whenever you play with a computer or against the computer or the game, there's a specific pattern, right? And so you'll know that you can maybe get 3 hits in, and then you got to block. And then, let him do his combo, and then you get 3 more hits in, then you got to block, right? So it's always a pattern. And if you didn't recognize that pattern, and you didn't pick up on those clues, you're going to be there for a minute, bro. Like, you're going to be there for a while. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I get impatient. My son can do it for days, but my son's smart. He's like me. And so he'll recognize and pick up patterns and adjust and pivot. So anyway, I thought back all the way back to the games because I was tripping off on the graphics. And I was like, man, I remember when games, like were 32-bit or whatever, analog before all this digital. And I remember there were still same patterns with like Punch Out. If you remember Mike Tyson's Punch Out from Nintendo, man, you remember Mike Tyson's Punch Out from Nintendo. And same thing with like Mario Brothers. Like there were certain levels, right, where you got, and there were patterns. So you had to do some sort of a combination of moves in order to beat that boss or in order to get past that roadblock. And why this applies today is because I believe that there are patterns that we recognize, but sometimes we can actually choose to go in it unprepared. And so let me give you an example how you can pick up on these patterns today. And so in your commute to work, there is a specific route that you take. You may go, through this side street, onto a freeway, exit, side street, freeway, side street, right? Or some fucking combo. And this is your routine. You just happen to do it. And I want you to think whether maybe the first time you did that route, it may not been like that, right? You might have adapted to your current route because of a strategy to save 2 or 3 minutes because you recognize the patterns. You recognize that at this minute in the morning, there's a massive amount of traffic. Or maybe this time of the day, there's a lot of traffic in this lane. So I recognize that pattern. I'm going to swoop by everyone else and go in this lane because I know that insider secret. I'm hip to game and I recognize patterns. And so think about that because I want you to go through it. I feel that you're going to commute some way, somehow. And you also want to recognize like your habits, because those are also common patterns. And so, for example, like I have an addictive personality, right? Like if there's something that I really like, I'm all about it. I get obsessed and then I go all in. And so that's just my pattern. So, my wife will know that pattern. She'll recognize and that I'll get a look in my eye, and she'll just step aside. I'm like, oh, here we go. And then I get I go all in. Anyway, that happens to you. And so you might have a specific pattern, whether it's an area that you park at work or an area that you enter into a mall or an area, or the way you go into work. You might have a specific pattern, like you clock in, go get coffee, put your lunch in the refrigerator, whatever. There's a specific pattern. And why this is important is because we can adjust those patterns. And the hardest thing to do is adjust those patterns because it is outside of our comfort zone. Those habits become our comfort zone. And whenever we have to step outside of our comfort zone, it becomes kind of a grind. And we look at it as if like, And this topic is actually going to lay over to the sales training video that I'm going to have shortly after this video. So definitely catch the next one, because there's a pattern that we're going through that we have to adjust and pivot. And it has to do actually with credit pulls. So you may be having a difficult time on getting credit reports or getting a social security number or getting the approval to pull someone's credit. And if that's happening to you, then you're definitely going to want to watch the next video. And if I remember, I'll go back into the notes and leave a link below these notes. But if not, at least you have an option to click on the playlist, which it will be in the playlist. So without further ado, let me get back to the point of patterns and why it's important for you to pick up on. Is because a lot of times where we sometimes get it. I'm telling you, it's improv, so sometimes you might say some words, you'll be like, did he just say that? And I'm be like, yeah, boo-boo, I just said that. So anyway, a lot of times we are unable to grow. We are unable to get to the next level. We are unable to get more results than we get usually, because we're just simply doing the same pattern. We're doing the same sequence of events. We're doing the same actions, and it's conformed to our day, right? And so because it worked last time, it must work this time. Or because it worked last year, why isn't it working this year? And sometimes it just really, there it goes again. Really, in essence, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is us just recognizing where in the sequence it goes wrong. And so it's okay to have patterns. I'm not saying don't change everything you do about your day. The only thing I am saying though is consider where your end result is, or your ideal result, your goal for that day is, right? And and kind of work backwards from there. And so if your goal is to go in and clock out by 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever day it is, time of the day it is, know that by that time you need to reach X amount of sales, right? Or whatever it is, whatever it is you do. You know, and then you got to kind of work around it. Maybe it's not even a clock out time. Maybe it's just to get a specific answer, get a specific, you know, agreement. And what we have to do where we start is actually start from the result and then work backward. And so it's so idea, like, you know, just some random topic, and I'll recognize the patterns. So like on the weekends, right? Like, you know, my wife or my family, we don't cook. We, at least on the weekends, you know, my wife don't cook. We all go out to eat, right? And I love going to restaurants. It's cool. And so what we do though is we spend at least a good 20 minutes talking about where we're gonna go eat. And so we cross out ideas, you go back and forth. And what's funny is that maybe you might relate. You know, I'm married. I've been married for going on 5 years come tomorrow. And so, you know, when my wife would be like, oh man, we can eat wherever you want, babe, you choose, you know. So of course I already know what that means because I recognize the patterns. And what it means is go ahead and name a few places until I say yes. That's really what it means. Because my wife don't eat like seafood, right? She don't really eat like some areas or some restaurants, you know, like Chinese restaurant. I'm all about Chinese restaurant. Give me some garlic fried rice, right? Give me some coconut shrimp. I'm all about it. Well, my wife's not. And so, of course, you know, through years and years of understanding the pattern, whenever we would talk about dinner, she says that one famous line of, oh yeah, we could go wherever you want, baby, just you choose. And then I already know what she means, you know, like, all right, well, shit, it can't be here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start listing off names until you say, you know, until you agree with one, and then we'll go ahead and debate about that. I'll give another suggestion, that'll get shot down. You'll give a suggestion, I'll shoot that down, and then we'll come somewhere in the middle, right? And so where I believe we all kind of face that situation, it may not be with our spouse about food or whatnot, but it may be about a certain topic where we may reach resistance, and because of our pattern recognition and our ability to understand, you know, the likelihood of the response or whatever we seem to get based on our experience, we can then leverage the lessons that we learned in the past. We can then leverage our experience to rewrite our future. And this is where you take lessons learned and use them as stepping stones to get to the next playing field. And here's the thing, I know it's random talking about dinner, right? But a lot of you you guys, you know what I mean? Like, hey, think about it. Like you're like, oh yeah, you know. But those of you who are still dating, you probably is not there. You know what I mean? Like you're not there yet, and I get it. But where you will get it is some other facet of your life where you have to go through a pattern. Maybe you ask your manager for a vacation, and you got to go through that bullshit, or you ask someone for something, and you really hope to get that something. You sometimes just need to kind of reverse engineer it and start from the result, work backwards. And so in order to get that one thing, let's say it was dinner, then I already know what I'm going to face if I name off, or if I go this route or use this approach, right? And so the best way to go about it is, if I knew my wife didn't like seafood and I love seafood, but I want her to comply and go out to a seafood restaurant, what I'm going to do is drop seeds on what we could do after or nearby that seafood restaurant. And so if I knew that my wife, liked the Hobby Lobby right next to this seafood restaurant, what I would do is not even ask about food. What I would do is ask, like, hey, does Hobby Lobby have this one thing? Okay, cool. I'm thinking about getting that. You know what I mean? Maybe we could stop by there. Me already knowing that she loves that shit. She's all about Hobby Lobby. I don't know what. Girls, man, females are all about Hobby Lobby. And so, there just happened to be a Hobby Lobby right next door to the Asian restaurant. And so if I drop seeds about that, then I make her wheels turn, and she want to go to Hobby Lobby. And so now the resistance to go to a seafood restaurant where she's not going to be eating or she'll just eat rice, you know what I mean? Rice and soy sauce. Like, all right, babe, just but I'm feasting like a king. just if I wanted to do that, which I wouldn't because I have a heart. But if I wanted to, that's probably the route I would take, because I recognize the pattern, I recognize the resistance. And so I find that if I went this route, it would be less resistance for me to get compliance for her to go to this place, knowing that there is upside for her. I sold her on the upside. So how do we do this in our day? Well, what we do in our day is we plant seeds towards results that we know the other party would want, or sensations that we know the other party would want. In my example, my wife, her sensation was, oh, I love Hobby Lobby. I love Hobby Lobby. Ooh, and just have her think of different things that she could do. Like, her mind's spinning. Me, all along, I'm thinking about the result of actually going to an Asian restaurant. Now, I know I'm just using kind of just some random subjects or topics, and I hope you're following me, because you could use the same ideology regardless of what you're doing. So if you want to go see a movie that your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend don't want to go see, and this is just a movie, right? But you want compliance to go do that random movie, then you gotta really think outside the box. And so maybe not open up the topic of the movie, but also the upside for that person for going to that movie with you, or maybe the local area of what they could do afterwards. And so the movie becomes their bridge to go do that thing that brings them to sensation, but also leaves you with the agreement and compliance. Man, I know that shit was deep. You probably gotta listen to this one again. But I'm telling you, what I just shared with you right now will help you remove a lot of the pressure or resistance that you're facing right now on that one thing. Whether it was Asian food, Chinese restaurant, whatever the fuck it is, a movie, anything that you are having trouble getting, maybe a vacation from your manager, or taking this Friday off from your manager. There's a specific way to do it. You just have to think about the other party and what their upside is, or what their upside could be, and how you getting your way will be your bridge, or their bridge, to get that one thing that they want, their upside. So think about that, and I hope this video made sense. If it did, definitely share it with someone who needs to see it, or who wants to solve this riddle, because I know that was kind of everywhere, but I have a feeling that you followed me and you get the point. So do me one favor, leave a comment below, let me know what your takeaway was. Hit the like, of course, and if you haven't subscribed by now, hit the subscription, hit that bell, so that way you get notified if whether or not it's Breakfast of Champions or it's some sales education or sales meeting pop-up, and you'll be able to quickly decipher whether or not you want to watch the content. Of course, I hope you watch the content. I hope a 4-letter word doesn't ruin your day, and if it does, learn to get past that, because if the sound of a word, which is just the sound, if it affects you in that much, in that way, then you are not living in your own, right? You're not your own person. You're living through the external output of anybody else. So in other words, if my neighbor said, Filipinos are fobs, then that's just gonna ruin my life. Like, oh no, don't say that shit, bruh. I give a fuck what you say, right? I give a fuck what your input is about a nationality or a specific race. Does that make sense? Because that don't affect me. That's not my point of view. Everyone's gonna have a point of view, and if you try to change everyone's point of view, you're spending too much time living through their point of view and not your own. So I invite you to live through your own point of view, and let's go rock this shit today. I'll go see you at the top. Bye.